One of the reasons I am such a huge car enthusiast is because I'm a Gen Xer. I grew up in the 1970s, which was one of the last decades that had true muscle cars and true luxury cars, where the automobile was such a huge part of the family unit and the American culture. As you can see in these pictures, I grew up with Camaros and Chevelles and Oldsmobiles, and I have so many good memories of doing things and going places of these things. It ingrained itself into my psyche, so I will continue to love these cars. And that's why I have such an affinity for classic cars.
Hello and welcome to Driving the Classics. I'm David Mayfield. Again, we're going to feature some new cars today. We're going to look at the different unique vehicles they have. We're going to talk to the owners, get the history behind them, get the stories behind these cars. So come along on our journey, and if you like what you see, go ahead and hit subscribe down here, and also hit the bell to get your updates whenever a new update comes across. And so come along with us and enjoy the show. All right, we're here today with Ken and his 1967 Mercury Cougar. Ken, you were telling us a little bit about how you came about this. What was the story on how you found this?
The car had been bought by a gentleman from Hawaii working down here in the oil fields, and he left it sitting in a shipping container down there. He was going to put it back together and ship it back to Hawaii. Never happened, so it sat for 13 years in a shipping container down there. The guy that owned the lot was going to sell it, get rid of the lot, so the guy told him to get rid of the car. And that's how we ended up coming in possession of it. And we fixed it up from there. I mean, totally went through it from the ground up. I mean, there's still a few things left to do on the car, but you know, it's still a work in progress, but we love the car. I love the oddballs. When we found it, we had to redo all four corners of it. Had been damaged. You couldn't tell it when we first seen it, but everything's been pulled out within a quarter of an inch. There's a lot of mud and that was in the car. It's all been pulled back out. It was barely running. It was still turned over. We went through it, freshened up the motor, and done a lot of that. All the upholstery used to be baby blue, and we redid all the upholstery and all new seats, covers, everything in it. One of the neat things about this car is with the Mercuries, this car was actually going to be called the Apollo originally. The Cougar name actually was going to be what the Mustang was. The Cougar name was given to Mercury from Ford because they decided the name was more elegant. So Mercury picked that up. Pretty much this car this was on a guy, it was a little bit more expensive than the Mustang. This was on somebody that had bought a Mustang, was going to one of these on their way to a Thunderbird. It had a few more little creature comforts. It actually, one of the first cars had delay windshield wipers. It actually a foot pedal up underneath it. You could hit and bring it up. Some of the options of this car is you could actually buy TV from the dealer to go in the back of these cars. They're very, you don't see a lot of them anymore.
Hiya, friend. Great morning for golf, eh, friend? Hey, this one of those new Cougar XR7s you got here?
That's right.
Cougar. The big cat. Let's see you do its eyes.
Oh, the headlamp? Sure.
A Cougar eyes, hide by day, shine by night. Say, that's what I call a real neat-looking cockpit. Bucket, tack, stick, toggle switches. This stuff is all standard, huh?
That's right.
The V8 is standard, too?
Yeah.
Well, this Cougar's really got it, eh? Say, you new around here.
Well,
Oh, that's, okay, friend. You can play with me. I'd better warn you, I'm pretty good at this game. Maybe I can give you a few pointers.
Mercury Cougar. Pound for pound, dollar for dollar, the best equipped luxury sports car in America.
In 1967, the Mercury Cougar was the most successful model launch in the history of Mercury. In fact, it was so impressive that it was named Car of the Year by Motor Trend magazine, beating out the Chevrolet Camaro, Ford Thunderbird, and the Cadillac Eldorado. Mercury joined the pony car race at full speed with the Cougar that was based on the stretched version of the Ford Mustang. Only a two-door hardtop was available, but there were three trim levels: Base, XR7, and GT. The base came with standard simulated leather bucket seats, hideaway headlights, and a V8 engine. The XR7 luxury package included a wood-rimmed steering wheel, black-faced competition-type instrumentation, and a simulated walnut dash, toggle switches, an overhead console, a leather-covered T-handle automatic transmission shifter, and combination leather and vinyl seats. For the performance buyers, the GT package was available, included firmer suspension, stiffer springs all around, larger shocks, power front disc brakes, wide 14-inch tires, and a low restriction exhaust system, and special GT badging. The Cougar's direct competition were Buick, Oldsmobile, and Pontiac coupes of the same class. Engine options started with two 289 V8 engines, one with 200 horsepower and one with 225 horsepower. The high-end motor was a 320 horsepower 390 Marauder V8. A 3-speed manual gearbox was standard, with a 4-speed optional. A select shift automatic transmission was also available. Mercury continued to produce Cougars for 8 generations, with the last Mercury Cougar rolling off the assembly line on August 9, 2002. By the way, the 8th generation Cougar, 1999 through 2002, was the only model that did not offer a V8 option in the car's 35-year history.
We have Bill Hummel here today, who is the owner of this 1936 Cord. Tell us a little bit about this car, how you came about receiving it, what you're interested in it, connection to it.
I got interested in Cords because my grandfather was EL Cord, and so it made sense for me to collect Cords rather than Studebakers we talked about. And so I've had 4 of these. My first one was this is called a Cabriolet, the 2-door 2-seater. It's the most rare of all the Cords. They only built 194 of them. But I had a supercharged one just like this and never drove it, and it was a mistake of my life. This one I drive, and they are much more fun when you don't have a flawless car. You have one that you can take out and enjoy and tell the stories, because that's what gets people interested in them. This car here was the dividing line between the old way of building cars and the new way. These all came from Indiana. These were made in Connorsville, Indiana, just east of Indianapolis. And this was the world's first, this is America's first front-wheel drive car, Cord was. This was made in 36 and 37. They had Lycoming V8 engines in them, 289 flatheads, with a Bendix transmission. The transmission's actually in the front. The engine transmission, they're backwards, and kind of pulls the car forward. So they only made these cars in 36 and 37. No Cords in 36 were ever supercharged. The cars they could not sell in 36, they relabeled them as 37s, and only some of them were supercharged. Now, just because they have pipes on them, most of the cars now have fake pipes on them. But when you find one with the real Switzer Clemens blower and the pipes, you have something pretty special. And that's what I never really drove on my first black supercharged Cabriolet. Mistake of my life. This was the dividing line, like I said, between the old way of making cars and the new way. So this is the first car with front wheel drive. Here's the transmission in the front. First car with the hidden headlights. Because it was so low to the ground with no transmission running down the center, it didn't need running boards.
Okay.
And the first car with no visible door hinges. So all the hot rodders think, I did this to the car. No, this is what they were copying. A very sleek look. And as such, this car got a lot of publicity back then. Well, one, it was too expensive for the average Joe, but a lot of the movie stars and sports stars had these things. This is the first car with a completely disappearing top. Because these used to look like buggies. They sat up on top. First car with a built-in trunk, locking gas cap, edge lighting, horn ring. It was a lot of firsts on this car. The thing looks like a spaceship even today. But these are fun to drive, and I encourage everybody to get one that you can drive. Don't get one that's so nice that you're scared to drive it. take it out to dinner, tell people the stories about them, and that is why people love cars, is because they know they can be like the guy who originally drove one. They can be like in this car, like Amelia Earhart, or Tom Mix the Cowboy, or Johnny Weissmuller, Groucho Marx. This car was about $2,700 brand new, when a house was only $2,000. So that's how expensive it was. Duesenberg was the high end, that was the big brother. Accord was in the middle, and then you had Auburn at the entry level.
Yep.
And they were all from Indiana.
Yep.
So, but that gives you a little bit about Accords.
Now, one of the things that, as we go through this series, I want to be able to explain the benefits and the enjoyment and the satisfaction that you get out of being in the collector car community, in that world. There's a lot of positivity that can come about by owning and living with these cars, because they're just fun, and they can be used for bonding experiences. So there is a lot of positive that can come out of this hobby. But I don't want to always just make it all bright and sunny and rainbows and unicorns, because it's not. It's really not all the time. Cars are a lot of work. There's a lot of maintenance. There's a lot of expense that's involved with these. But in the whole scheme of things, in the long run, you get a lot of satisfaction. There will be frustrations, but you're going to get that with any hobby. If you do woodwork, if you do any other kind of collecting, you're going to I collect glassware, or I collect ceramics or figurines or whatever like that, and you drop one and break it. Well, that's gone. That's investment gone. But working through these problems that you have with these cars is really, in the long run, a positive thing, because you become closer to the car. You understand the car more. You know things about it that other people don't. So I'm on my way right now. My son's Corvette, his '88 Corvette, we had an issue with it just stalling out. I thought it was dead, but it was just clogged fuel injectors. Well, I didn't, normally I do my own work, but this time I didn't have the time to do that. So I brought somebody in to be able to do that, and it was the fuel injecting system. So there were some clogged fuel injectors. There was some debris in the fuel system that needed to be cleaned out. Well, Friday we just got that done. He just he completed it, and my son started up, and it was running just fine. It was running better than it ever had before since he had it. Then he called last night at about 8:30 or so, and said, "Dad, it's doing it again." So I'm on my way up there. The fuel injectors were clean. We took them and had them serviced and cleaned out and tested, and everything was good. So my only assumption is that there was still some debris in the fuel system. And so now I'm going up there to tear this apart, take the fuel injectors out now that I have some time today, and to clean the fuel injectors. To clean the fuel system out, because there's probably still some rust in there, and that's what it is. It's a rust problem. It's very fine particulates, and so I'm going to pull it all apart, change the fuel filter in it, and hopefully be able to put all that back together and get it running today. But like I said, I'm going to clean out the fuel lines and change fuel filter, clean off the injectors once again, just because there's a screen on them that you have to clean off. So hopefully that's all it is. But these just being cleaned this week shouldn't have any problems with that. So that's what we're doing today. But that's part of owning an older car, owning one of these cars. And one of the tips that I would like to give is, if you do have these, some people just have mechanics work on them all the time, and you can do that. That's fine. There's no big deal if you can afford that expense. But it is a great advantage to be able to know how to work on these. Myself, I've been working on cars for a long time. I mean, I have that ability, I have that knowledge, I have that aptitude to be able to do that, and so that's what I do. And I enjoy it. I really do. It's not work. But what's frustrating is when you have the same problem over and over and over again. So that's really what this is about. So we got the injectors clean, got them all fixed, and now we're going to go clean the fuel system. So it's gradually getting back to where it needs to be, and that's one of the things. That's what it is. That's what you do when you have these cars. So when you do buy these older cars, you do have to make a commitment, and that's one of the things. A quote that I actually heard this morning from Tony Robbins, who's one of the famous motivational speakers in the country. He's been doing that for years. One of the quotes that I heard this morning was that Tony Robbins states that if you make a decision, if you say, I'm going to do this is what I want to do, this is where I want to be. His quote was, commit to your decisions. Don't quit. Don't do it. The only thing you have to do is be flexible, be adaptable, and that's what this hobby takes. It takes patience. It takes flexibility. Being able to think on your feet. Being able to, when you're working on these cars, to be able to be a problem solver, and that has really helped me in this hobby. So again, collecting cars, being in the car community, owning these classic cars is a lot of fun. It really is. And when you make that commitment to be an owner of these cars, you do have to be flexible, and it teaches you that, and you learn so much from having to work on these. And when you do fix a problem, when you do repair a problem and solve that issue, that's a small victory, and it gives you self-confidence. So this is just not about owning cars. This is about learning to be adaptable, learning patience, learning how to think on the fly, being able to problem solve, and having that commitment. So that's really what the collector car hobby can do for you, and build self-confidence. So even with all of the problems and things we have to do to this car, I'm still happy. I still enjoy it because I'm learning. I'm having my small victories every day, every time I work on these vehicles. And it's also a bonding experience for me and my son. So anyway, like I said, I just wanted to put out that there are some negatives, but if you turn them into a positive, then it's all good. So thank you for listening, and keep driving with passion. Well, that was our episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, if you like what you saw, please click down to subscribe and then click the bell to get the alerts when new updates come about. And again, you can always contact me. My email address, I got a Facebook link down at the bottom. So if there's something you'd like to see, something you'd like us to feature, even an idea that I may not have thought about, please let me know. We want to make this the best channel that we possibly can. So again, contact me, and thank you for watching.